Hello and welcome to Real Opinions, and today I'm going to be reviewing the latest DC animated movie, The Killing Joke. So this is based on Alan Moore's incredibly iconic graphic novel of the same name, and it brings back Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, the people from the animated series and also the Arkham games, in their respective roles as Batman and the Joker. It's got a few other people in it, like Ray Wise is in it too, so it's got a good cast. It's based on really iconic, beloved material. And it's gone down quite controversially, because essentially what happens is you have half the film that is the Killing Joke, and then you have this opening prologue that is totally original, in which we spend a lot of time with Batgirl as she sort of battles with this gangster that has a fetish for her, and that part in particular has received criticism for being slow, boring, irrelevant, detached from the actual Killing Joke narrative, and also for one particular scene that I'll talk about. But the gist is that for the actual Killing Joke, this is the ultimate Joker and Batman story. This is where, you can tell that Christopher Nolan has read The Killing Joke, and that's where The Dark Knight came from, because it's all this, like, we're the same, you and I, you're just a step away from being me kind of stuff, and it's where the Joker is at his most disturbed and most vile and horrible, and it gives you the Joker's backstory. It gives you great conversations between Batman and the Joker as they sort of talk about these sort of broader ethical questions, and it really sort of like examines their relationship and like why they hate each other, why they need each other, all those things that have subsequently become central to Batman and Joker stories. They're ideas that sort of can be traced to the Alan Moore's graphic novel. And now we have an adaptation that is bringing that to life with the people that, a lot of people associate with Batman and with the Joker, with the definitive Batman in Kevin Conroy. So, let's break this down, let's go into a review. So the first half, the controversial prologue half, I didn't hate. I did not hate that half of the film at all. I think it's definitely weaker than the Killing Joke half, but I do not understand the vitriol that has been directed towards it. The controversial scene is, you may have seen a clip of it by now, you've probably seen an article about it, is the scene where basically Batgirl has had enough of Batman sort of controlling her and telling her what she can and can't do, and she starts hitting him, and then that sort of aggression sort of ultimately ends up with them having sex. And people have hated that scene for numerous reasons, because Batman and Batgirl shouldn't have sex. It's not true to the comics, because it feels like Batman is betraying his best friend, because obviously Batgirl is Commissioner Gordon's daughter, and because it reduces Barbara Gordon to a sex object, apparently. I don't know why a character having sex reduces them to a sex object, but I'm often a little confused towards some of this outrage. But anyway, I had a small problem with that. I did feel like it was out of character for Batman more than it was out of character for her. It did feel a bit weird, but I far from hated it. But the rest of this half of the film it does feel like a random one-off episode of the animated series. It is kind of disconnected from The Killing Joke. The main reason it's there is to sort of A, pad out the running time, because The Killing Joke is quite a short graphic novel, and B, to sort of establish Barbara before the events of The Killing Joke, which I think is fine. Because I think a lot of people are like, oh, you can just do it anyway. People know who Barbara Gordon is. No, they don't. Like comic book fans like myself know who Barbara Gordon is. But I watched this with my dad. And, I didn't, he appreciated having this kind of time to get to know the character, because it made the events of The Killing Joke have more dramatic weight. I do think it is needed to establish Barbara Gordon's character more for people who haven't read the comic books. You can't just assume everyone knows these characters as well as you do, or as well as I do. I know these characters, but I still didn't mind having time to sort of spend with Batgirl before what happens in The Killing Joke happens. As well as that, I actually thought the writing was fairly solid. The action sequences in this prologue were quite decent. I thought it was all quite good, to be honest. It does feel a little unnecessary. But the way I started to think about it was almost like I was just getting a double feature. I could get the 40 minutes of The Killing Joke and then nothing. or I could get this 30 minutes and then 40 minutes of The Killing Joke. And yes, you could go, it's just unnecessary, I don't need this, it's bringing the quality of the overall thing down. Just think, I don't know, I just thought of it, like I said, as a double bill, like a separate film that I happen to get. When I'm paying, can't remember how much I paid, was it £9 or something, for The Killing Joke? It's nice to have a little bit extra. I didn't mind. If you really hate it that much, just skip to The Killing Joke half, because The Killing Joke half is great. The animation is a bit TV quality, but the voice work is incredible, the music's good, the sound design is disturbing, the material itself is obviously incredible. Like, The Killing Joke, you can see from watching this why people like The Killing Joke. It's a great story. It's got wonderfully tense moments. It's got good dialogue. All of the stuff that has been taken from Alan Moore is great. Like I said, the voice work is phenomenal. I think this is the best I personally have ever found Mark Hamill's Joker, and that's partly because he is allowed to go properly insane in The Killing Joke. The moment, the big defining moment that's on the poster, that is the DVD cover for this, that is the moment people remember The Killing Joke for, I thought that was handled really, really well. I can't go into too much detail for for people who haven't read The Killing Joke and who don't know what happens, but I would say, like, the way it uses sound, the way it's edited, the way that scene was constructed, I thought was really dramatic, and I thought it was really well done. Generally, it's one of those rare films where I think it gets better as it goes along, actually, because I thought the ending as well was really well done. I watched, like, a side-by-side thing, comparing it to the original graphic novel, and they don't change much. They change lines here and there. It's almost panel for panel, but not quite. But I thought it was a really faithful adaptation. This is the thing, people confuse faithful adaptation with good adaptation. You don't need to do everything exactly the same. That's not how it works. The odd little changes that they made, I can see why they made them. The Joker's backstory stuff is great. This isn't much of a Batman story, so it's hard to talk about Kevin Conroy's performance, because he's on the sidelines in favor of the Joker and in favor of Batgirl in this film. But he seems quite good. Overall, I liked this film. The animation was a little cheap. I will grant people that. There were times where it felt like a little undetailed, or like movement was a bit it wasn't quite fluid. But I thought that it was serviceable quality animation. I thought they hid lots of nice little Easter eggs. If you go on the IMDb trivia page, you can see about like lots of little hidden things. And it does imply that people cared and tried their best here. I thought it was a gutsy decision to add the prologue. I'm not sure if I thought it paid off, but like I said, I didn't hate it by any means, because the thing is short as it is, so it was nice to have it lengthened. So I thought it was a bold decision to add new material, even if you don't think it works. And the voice work is phenomenal. The source material itself is incredible. I know that's a bit like when you get a Shakespeare adaptation, you don't usually say, like, oh, by the way, the script's really good, because you know that Macbeth's really well written. But I still think it's worth pointing out that this is a very, very well written and very well told story. And, the fact that that is from Alan Moore's graphic novel is still fine, because Alan Moore's had graphic novels adapted in the past and they haven't worked. But this one does work as a good, compelling story. I thought that it was disturbing in places. I thought that it was emotional in places. And I particularly enjoyed it just for sort of seeing where like Nolan's Batman could have like spawned from inspiration from this material. So yeah, overall, I liked The Killing Joke. I think the prologue half is definitely weaker than the subsequent half. I think the animation is a bit crummy. But overall, I enjoyed this film quite a bit, and I understand the criticisms being directed at it, but I don't agree with them. And so I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. And I think it's DC's best movie of the year, for definite. So yeah, I'm sure there's going to be some fanboys on here telling me why I'm wrong, and telling me that I don't understand the material properly, or that I should just go learn to read, because I've never read, ever. People who know me know I've never read a comic book. It's not like I worked in a shop for a year. It's not like I have mountains of graphic novels next to my bed. I've read graphic novels. I'm just not an arse who can't handle things being changed. That's the difference between me and everyone else. I can read things and still not get arsey when they get turned into a film. I can handle adaptation without crying and becoming a little piss baby. Anyway, I gave this an 8 out of 10. Please don't dislike because of what I just said. Thank you for watching, and there'll be more real opinions on the way soon. Bye-bye.